today we are moving on to 6.5. So we're going back to our notes packet that you got a few class periods ago. If you don't have your notes, then I should have some extras on my desk, but look in your trapper first. So 6.5 is finding the percent of a number. Okay? So by the end of today, you should be able to solve problems involving percents. So on these first few questions, it says to use estimation. We're not going to do that. We are going to follow this proportion right here. Okay, so this is our proportion, so it's kind of like a ratio. Okay, and to solve it, we use the butterfly method. So hopefully some of you are familiar with that. Okay, the only thing that stays consistent on this is the 100. On your bottom left, that 100 stays the same every single time, and you're always going to have your percent on top of the 100, because remember, percent is always on top of 100. So if we're missing the percent, then we'll put an X, but if it gives us the percent, then we put that above the 100. Okay? So it'll just depend what it gives us. So we have percent over 100 on the left side, and we have part over whole on the right side. And you can see part is the same as is, and whole is the same as of. So if you see of, that's the whole. If you see is, that's the part. Okay, so up here, I want you to write percent over 100 equals part over whole. And remember, if it says is, that's your part. And if it says whole, or it says of, that's your whole. Okay, this is the proportion we're going to use every single time. All right, so we need to find, remember, we're not going to estimate, we're going to actually solve it. So we need to find 98% of 60. So I'm going to use my proportion. So every time, for every single one of these questions, even on the homework, you're going to set it up just like that. So it's going to look like blank over 100 equals blank over blank. Okay, so every single time on your homework, it's going to start like that. Okay, if it gives you a percent, like it does here, it gives you 98%, that goes above your 100. This percent is always out of 100. Okay, so then we have to figure out, is the number that it gives us the part or the whole? So it says of 60. So if I look up here at my proportion, okay, my of, remember it says of 60, of is right here. So it has to be my whole. So 60 is going to be the whole, so it's going to go on the bottom like that, which means we're finding the part. We're trying to find 98% of 60. Okay? So this is where the butterfly method comes in. Okay, we're trying to figure out what X equals. So I highlight to make it easier for you guys. You can circle. Okay? And essentially, we're going to be multiplying what's diagonal from each other. So 98 and 60 are diagonal from each other. So that's going to be 98 times 60 equals, and then 100 and X are diagonal from each other. So we're going to multiply those. So 100 times X, just like that. Okay. So then I forgot to mention, you can have your calculator if you need it. So for this first example, okay, we're going to do 98 times 60. That's our first step. So go ahead and put that into your calculator. And I would get 5,880 equals 100 times X. Hopefully you remember how to solve equations. So you're going to draw your line down the equal sign, and you have to ask yourself, what is happening to the variable? Well, the variable is being multiplied by 100, so I have to divide by 100 on both sides. Remember, you always do the opposite. 100 divided by 100 is 1, so those cancel out, and we're left with X on the right side. And on the left side, we do 5,880 divided by 100. Remember, dividing by 100 is the same as moving your decimal twice to the left. But if you put that in your calculator, you would get 58.8. that would be your answer. So I don't need you to solve an equation like this for the homework to show your work. On this next one, I'm going to show you how I expect you to show your work. All right. So this one says, Sarah wants to score 78% on her next test. If the test has 40 questions, find out how many questions she will need to answer correctly to get the 78%. So I'm going to set up my proportion. Remember, it's the same each time. Blank over 100 equals blank over blank. So first thing I ask is, does it give me a percent? Yes, it does. It gives me 78%. So my 78 goes on top of 100. And then I have to decide, is 40 my part or my whole? Okay. In word questions, it's going to be a little more challenging to figure out your part, your whole, because you're not going to be able to look for the is or the of. But it says the test has 40 questions. How many questions will she need to answer correctly to get a 78%? So the test has a total of 40 questions. So 40 is the whole, and we're trying to figure out how many questions she can answer correctly to get at least a 78% on it. So we're trying to find the part. So I'm going to highlight, you guys circle. So what we're doing, you're always multiplying and then dividing. So you are going to multiply what is diagonal from each other. So 78 and 40 are diagonal from each other. So you can write 78 times 40. And then we divide by the number that is diagonal from the variable, from our letter. So we're going to divide by 100. So I am fine with you showing your work like this. Instead of doing the equation like this, you can do it like this for today. All right? But I need to see what you're putting in your calculator. So in your calculator, you're going to put 78 times 40 and then divide it by 100, and you get 31.2 as your answer. So it'd be 31.2 questions. Normally we'd round up or round down. No, we'd have to round up for a word problem, but I'm just going to leave it like this for now. So you can put this entire thing in your calculator all at once, and you will get the right answer. All right? The hardest part is just figuring out where your numbers go. So on this next problem, it says, this graph shows the eye colors among 500 students at a school. Approximately how many students have brown eyes? Okay. So this is hard to see on your paper because it's in black and white, so it's easier if you look up at mine. Okay. So there are 46% of students that have brown eyes. So I'm going to start with my proportion. It gives me the percent. It's 46. So that's going to go above my 100. And then what other number am I going to use? What do you think? So in the original question, it says, this graph shows the eye colors among 500 students. So 500 students is the total, which is the whole. And I'm trying to figure out 46% of that 500. So I'm going to do what we just did, and we're going to multiply what's diagonal from each other. So 46 and 500 are diagonal from each other. So 46 times 500. And then the 100 is what's diagonal from the variable. So I'm going to divide by 100. Now I'm going to put that in my calculator. So 46 times 500 divided by 100. And I get 230 students. Would be my answer. I want you to try this next one on your own. Pause the video, and then you can fast forward to see my answer to see if you got it right. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're trying to figure out how many students have blue eyes. So I set up my proportion like that. And then Blue Eyes is right here. So it's 23%. So it gives me my percent. That's going to go above 100. And then I have to figure out what number I'm going to use. And it is 500 again. And so it's just like that first problem. So I'm missing my part. Okay, I'm going to do my butterfly method. And I'm going to multiply 500 times 23. And then divide it by 100. Just like that. Okay. Put that in your calculator. 500 times 23. And you get 11,500. And then you divide it by 100. And you get 115 students as your answer. All right, so the next problem says, of the 575 students attending a field trip, 36% are 6th graders. How many 6th graders are on the field trip? So set up your proportion. So first question, does it give me a percent? Yes, it does. So that 36 is going to go above the 100. And then it says, of the 575 students attending the field trip, how many 6th graders are on the field trip? So there's 575 students altogether, so that's our whole, and we're trying to figure out just how many 6th graders there are. So we'd set a proportion like that, do our butterfly method, and solve it. So we multiply the two numbers that are diagonal from each other. So 575 times 36 divided by 100. And put that in your calculator. And we get 207 6th graders as our final answer. All right, flip your page over. We're not going to do all of them, these next problems. We're going to do 3 of them, though. So we're going to skip one. Okay. So we're doing the same thing. Set up your proportion. So blank over 100 equals blank over blank. Okay. So first question, does it give me a percent? No. If it gives you a percent, it's going to have a percent label like that. Okay. So it didn't give us a percent. So that's what we're missing. Instead of missing the part right here like we normally do, we are just missing the percent. So this time it gives us the part and the whole. So if I look here, it says of 92. Okay. If I look over at my proportion right here, of is right here. It's my whole. So 92 is going to be the whole. And then it says is 11.5. Okay. I go over here. Is the part. So it's going to be the top right. So 11.5 is the part. So like I said, the most challenging part is figuring out where all the numbers go. And then once you have those down, you should be good to go. So we're going to do the same thing, except now instead of dividing by 100, we're multiplying by 100, because now 100 and 11.5 are diagonal from each other. So we do 100 times 11.5, and then we divide it by 92, because 92 is the number that's by itself, or with the variable now. So I put that in my calculator. So you do 100 times 11.5 and then divide it by 92, and you should get 12.5 as your answer. Okay. So same thing, except our variable's in a different place on that one. we're going to skip that one. And we're going to do this one. So set up your proportion. Blank over 100 equals blank over blank. So first thing I ask myself, does it give me a percent? Yes, it does. My percent is 0.8%. Even though it's a decimal, I do not change it because it's already a percent. So I keep it 0.8. So then 35, I have to decide, is that my part or my whole? So it says of 35. So it's my of, which is my whole. So 35 is the whole, which would go right there, and we're missing our part. So now do your butterfly method and solve. Okay. Remember, you multiply what's diagonal from each other. So you're going to multiply 35 times 0.8, and then you divide by 100 this time. So go ahead and put all of that in your calculator. 35 times 0.8, and then divided by 100. You should get 0.28 hundredths. Last question. It says, what percent of 120 is 72? So set up our proportion like we have been. Okay. First question I ask, does it give me a percent? No. Remember, if it's going to a percent, then it's going to have the symbol. So neither of those are a percent, so that means we're missing the percent. Okay? Do not put a number above the 100 unless it is a percent. So then I have to decide which one of these numbers is my part or my whole. Okay? My hint for today, on your homework, the bigger number is always the whole. So the bigger number is always going to go on the bottom in the denominator. Okay? But you can see up here on these that says of 120. So of is the whole. And is 72 is the part. So 72 is my part and 120 is the whole. Do your butterfly method. And we multiply what's diagonal from each other. So we do 100 times 72. And then you divide it by 120. And then you put that in your calculator. So 100 times 72 divided by 120 is 60. And it should be 60% since it's asking for the percent. Same as this one. It should be 12.5%. I forgot about that. So how I showed my work on all these, this is exactly how I expect you to show your work on your work page. Okay? It's not hard to show your work like this. Okay, just show me what you're putting in your calculator and show me your proportion so I know that you're lining up your numbers correctly. Okay, you are showing your work on every single question. And if you get done with the homework, you are working on the IXL that is on the agenda. Email me if you have questions.